We're live. I just need to post it online. The lighting's terrible. Hmm. I'll have to fix it for next time. I'm just gonna have to deal for tonight. Do-do-do. Okay. Um. Yeah, maybe not. Maybe I'll just because the start of this is going to be very interesting. For a little bit now, I've been humming and hawing about making a new mod. So, I'm going to talk a bit tonight about what that is, what I'm planning on doing, and in the coming weeks slash months, the stuff that I'm going to need to do for it to all work. And so, basically, let's call to a new folder. Let's call it Untitled Mod for now. I'm gonna steal the what am I looking for? Modinfo.json. I'm just stealing it from XE for now. Okay. Content. And we're gonna see actually about getting rid of that as a dependency, but not right now. So the core idea of this mod, I'm gonna like make a folder. I'm gonna call it docs, I guess. And then this docs folder, I'm gonna just open up an Obsidian. I'm gonna start taking notes. Open the folder. Um, data. Okay, cool. So we got ourselves a docs folder. Let's find ourselves a new node. So the idea of this mod is basically you are going to be a scientist tasked with um, researching slash exploring a world that's there's been like a calamity style event that's happened. Very like roadside picnic stalker esque. So the whole or Cataclysm's portal storms. So there'll be um, terrible creatures and anomalies and things that'll be quite horrible and horrifying that your character will have to deal with and navigate to be able to do this stuff. And I'll zoom this in a bit so that since people are watching on the stream. But you're not alone. You're gonna work for a corporation slash organization uh, that is both shadowy, though human. You will interact with people. There will be characters that you'll be able to call up, that sort of thing. The way that you're going to uh, so the way you're going to interact with this dead world is basically through genetically engineered soldiers. So your character this scientist isn't actually who you send out isn't who goes out into this wasteland to die and be tormented and suffer. It's instead going to be you're basically going to have access to a cloning vat to kind of build your perfect soldiers, your perfect characters, to then send them out into this waste. Um, um, your soldier is going to be expected um, to hunt down materials, find fallen other soldiers who will have caches, um, explore, map the planet, etc. And so the TLDR, I guess, is that for anyone that's played the Sky Islands mod, so it's going to be a bit like Sky Islands. So like a Tarkov, Marauders, Anomaly type thing. Plus DDA style like crafting and management with the scientist. But as a total conversion. So it won't just be Cataclysm Tarkov. It will hopefully be its own thing. Its own enemies, own equipment, own types of progression, own types of transhumanism, the whole bit. And so I'm going to kind of build a lot of these systems from scratch is the plan to make it be cohesive and hopefully interesting for players. And so the what's a good way of what am I missing here? Yeah, and so let me write down. So core systems. So the core systems are you'll have a persistent character who's going to be your scientist, and so they're going to be able to build skills, proficiencies, need food/water, etc. So they're going to be like a normal character that you need to take care of, like it's a standard sim game. And then you're going to have more. I don't know if transient's the right word, but I'm going to use that. It's not a terrible connotation. Yeah, no, that works. So you'll have access to these transient characters, who are your combat monkeys. These characters, these transient characters, are going to be. I'll put this in case anyone joins us. These transient characters are going to be kind of cannon fodder. You're not gonna. The only thing you're gonna feel bad if one of them dies is the cost to get them back up on their feet again to equip them, and also to anything that you would have lost that they were carrying. And so, not too worried there. No. I'm gonna actually go to the step to here. Get a wiki link. And so, yeah, that'll be your character. Some of the big selling points. I want uh, more nuanced and more abstracted melee compared with Dark Days Ahead. And so the way that I plan for that to work is melee is basically going to be a it's going to be a robust combination of doing of moment to moment choices that, based on the situation and the status of everything around you, will vary. And so, especially built on some of the martial arts stuff that Venera's been working on for core Cataclysm, I want to basically work on when you So basically, how it's going to work is on attack, you get to select, or you get to choose one of X techniques out of all your martial arts selected randomly. Techniques will be very selective, though. And so, for example, like, your character might be able to, like, curb stomp enemies that are downed. And so that's not going to be tied to your sword or, like, whatever weapon you're using. It'll be tied to your actual character itself. And so the character is going to have this very robust list of options. And then all of your weapons are going to have a robust list of options as well. And there will be, based on tags system, tags will be stuff like too close, or I guess a better way would be like close, far, down, stunned, grabbing, off balance, recovering maybe would be one as well, stuff like that. And so, for example, and this will go for you and the enemies as well. And so, like, so for example, your character could potentially execute enemies that are downed. But after weapon swapping, potentially enemies could have an attack to knock your weapon from your hand. Or at least try. And so the idea is basically to come up with combat that, because, like, Cataclysm's combat right now is very it's very mathy. It's all just counting, because you're just trying to stay at, like, an optimal move economy compared with whatever you're fighting. And so I want to so there's going to be no moves. So, like, you're, like, attacking with a sword versus, like, attacking with a dagger will both be abstracted kind of the same way. In the sense that it's like you're going to be attempting to harm your opponent, your opponent's going to be attempting to harm you, and both those kind of things kind of happen simultaneously. And I'm just going to say they're both like 1 or 2 seconds. I don't know how long a turn of melee will work out to, but ideally all of the actions will be standardized. and so you kind of control the flow of combat, but there's no like backstepping your opponents. There's no kiting. It's like once you're in combat, it becomes kind of this narrative flow of picking maneuvers to get the upper hand on your opponent or to control them in a way that you really want to. And so it gets away from that. You just slam tab every time you're beside a creature, and instead you get to yeah. This also means that fighting multiple enemies is going to be a death sentence, but something else that is worth it for me to. So there's going to be very few enemies. A single entity should be a challenge in itself. And so a group will be very lethal / scary, not because the fact that even they're going to be doing twice the DPS, or that you're going to be losing too much stamina or something like that. Like one of those kind of things it's really hard to, or can be really annoying to manage in Dark Days Ahead. Instead, ideally groups are going to be lethal / scary because they're applying twice the amount of tags to you, right? And so while you're trying to fight off one of the creatures that you're facing, and it's just doing some standard damage, what if one of the other ones grabs you? And now it's grabbing you, and so you can't fend off the first one while also there's another one nibbling on your arm. Or potentially you could, right? And then even because there's this whole thing about like selecting specific maneuvers, if you're fighting something on like a good even footing, but then another creature comes in and is really, really close up in your face, then that means your great melee weapon, say a machete or something, is no longer useful because there's something right in front of you. And so that might disable like all of the attacks on your machete, leaving you to only be your only option to be able to shove it, like to put or push it away or something, let's say. And so that and that kills time, meaning you're taking more damage. And so yeah, and so that's kind of the idea for melee. And then, I mean, I'll do guns still exist. Of course, can't have a game like this without guns. I'm going to focus on probably something else, but write that for now. I'll go down here and I'll talk about guns. And so the plan for guns is to have a small collection of sci-fi grade weapons, like laser, solid projectile, Gauss, others like chemical, let's say. But the big thing with all of these is they're going to be very moddable compared with core. Compared with core Dark Days Ahead. And so, okay, that's just not gonna let me make that a word on this. And so, exchangeable mechanisms, barrels, mags, devices / optics, stocks, etc. With the big thing being that like I kind of want it to be like the like if for people that have played like a Fallout 4 or something like that, where there's where your weapons can really like transform into entirely different weapons. And so like for example, like solid projectile, um, there'll be kind of like one base gun in solid projectile, and you'll be able to put different barrels on it, stocks, etc. Ammo like conversion kits for the type of ammo, etc. And turn that into very, very different things. And so you could go from having like a simple pistol, like a stockless pistol, to all the way up to a sniper rifle with no trouble, basically. And then all of these will be researchable. I think I can just put. Okay. Search. So core progression for your guys will come in the form of basically as you actually explore this planet, as you successfully bring back anomalous material and stuff. Uh, uh, you're going to get funding with your organization. So, basically, as they kind of see you succeeding, they're going to want to provide you the income and the equipment and the resources required to actually continue to succeed. And so, you can basically you can use this funding to buy into projects with the rest of the org. And so research will be split into a couple of categories. Oh, sorry, that's my dog. So there will be mutagenics. So you'll be able to actually like research ways to transform and mutate your genetic super soldiers so that they're more powerful, more tough, can survive out in the wilds longer, etc., etc. Robotics to actually like give them cybernetic implants to increase the power of them in that way. So less turning them into monsters and more turning them into machines. Then, of course, weapons. So, melee materials, which would be armor. And then, there's one other one I was thinking of, and now I've lost it. I guess like subsystems was the other one I was thinking of. And I'll make that a link because so in so in classic, sci-fi fashion, as it's written here, your gear is going to really be your lifeline. And so I want to come up with a system where, because in Cataclysm you balance like a lot of different things like batteries and different ammo types and stuff like that. I really want to streamline a lot of that down. But I don't want to do something like the UPS because I find it a little bit clunky and it's a little abstracted in like not that interesting of way. And so basically, I want your suit. So basically, your enviro suit's gonna have a generator. Be upgraded. which, as things use power, will generate heat. And so, um, there will be, so we'll have passive heat, except percentage of your generator, or which for example, like a laser weapon, when fired, could eat 12% of your heat, which dissipates at 2% per second, let's say. Um, uh, but night vision goggles, for example, could lock your minimum heat at, I don't know, 10%. Yeah, and so then there'll be this kind of like balancing system, or this balancing act of taking or trying to manage your heat as a resource, similar to how you would like a mana or something in Magicalism. But it'll be much more of an ebb and flow, and so you could potentially do some pretty powerful things, but then you would have to worry about the downtime while you're um, while you're waiting for your generator to cool down so you can do more of that stuff. And potentially you might have to disable some of the safety nets you use a lot of the time, like say night vision goggles, like a Geiger counter, stuff like that. You might have to disable those to be able to use some of those big flashy abilities, which could lend some stuff as well. And so this um, will tie into cybernetics as well. So cybernetics, like none of the cybernetics or anything are going to take like a kilojoule type thing. There's going to be none of that. It's all just going to be off this abstracted heat system is the plan. And so yeah, so what else do I need to talk about? Oh. And so the big thing with all of this stuff that I've talked about here, um, oh, I guess should talk about the world. That's something that's worth talking about. So the world. Um, in one word, megacity. And so I want basically the place that this game takes place in to be just like a super densely packed urban area, like even more packed than Cataclysm. And so I'm going to try and do some stuff to basically do like like delete roads, for example. So there'd be no roads in this stuff. It would just be like super like walkways between like massive to or like buildings, and so it'd just be rows and rows of buildings that you have to explore, giving lots of line of sight breaking and stuff as well. So there's a lot of that kind of like maneuver. Like you don't want to be out in the open because that's where bad things could potentially happen to you. Uh, but I want this to be kind of destroyed. Lots of like craters, partially destroyed buildings, etc. Like lots of stuff you can kind of move through in more interesting ways based on what's kind of happened around it. Essentially biomes, so different different affected areas with different rewards, I guess I would say, slash enemy types. I guess that's also something worth saying. Is so the idea with the enemies is very few enemy types base, lots of personality slash moves, because I want all of these enemies to feel really interesting and dynamic to fight. So I don't just want like a dozen or like two or even more of like these like low effort enemies with just like a few stat changes or like one little gimmick. I want each of the base enemies to feel like a really, really unique thing that you should like kind of learn their whole move set and what's good against them and kind of how to deal with them, etc. But I want enemy plates. So a specific base enemy could spawn big or electric or extra fast, for example. And so similar to the current system. And so that's like going to be a big new feature. Is I really like again the ability to like for the game to know based on where you are, thereabouts in the world, and how hard the world is, what biome you're in, etc., what kind of monsters should spawn, and to kind of what kind of monsters should spawn, and then how to. I need to drink water. I'm talking too much. What kind of monster it should spawn, and what kind of modifiers they should have on them to make them more challenging or interesting or appropriate to the area. But still having that tight base core identity with specific moves and tags and stuff that make them interesting and unique to fight. Then what else do I need to talk? Yeah, so let's stuff here. And so, with all of this said, I need a so this is going to need a bunch of infrastructure stuff. So before I can even get to the point where I can I'll do infrastructure versus just needs. And so by infrastructure, I mean needs for in C++. Need to add so this is the stuff that we'll need EOC support. So I'll just need to add things to make it happen at all. And then there's just anything else would be just on JSON side. And so first one that comes to mind, I need I need EOC selectors. So I'm gonna need the ability to do a pop-up like you do for IUSes or something with text of my choice that triggers EOCs of my choice, so that the player can actually pick which of those melee maneuvers that they want to do, and then have melee kind of progress that way. So I need those EOC selectors for melee for the enemies. Templates. Monsters. But monsters stay. I probably need some general infra to support. So I'm gonna need probably some infra to like actually support this kind of back and forth thing to make sure that like monsters keep pace with the player. Also probably won't need it for the player. Like ideally, standard attacking disabled. Attacking. On that note, in general, like let's see. So basically, so I'll like I don't know what buttons I'm gonna replace on the Cataclysm keyboard, but the idea would be basically you'd be able to bind some of those like suit subsystems, so you could just hit one button and like auto trigger your flashlight, or like auto trigger your night vision goggles, or like like activate like some super jump legs or something like that. So just being able to bind a couple of those as like quick uses, I think would be really powerful. And so potentially in this mod, especially when you're controlling the character in the field, like there might be some things like reading that you just don't ever have to do, and so maybe I can remove binds there. It's something that I'd like to play with, but it's like a feature that I'd like to be able to support in general. Uh, for melee, I'm also going to need I need an EOC to actually trigger melee attacks. You select, and on that note, I also need an EOC to get all valid slash get one up. So that I can actually build out those lists. We have everything I need for guns, I think. Just need to have them. have everything we need for research, I believe, too. We just need to add those characters, those groups, the rewards, and then provide them to the and hook it all up, rather. Um, I'll add just one more for needs. Let's do it. So can I even remove roads in JSON from cities? What do I need to do? Make that happen. Should I just use nested map gen for it? What else do I need to talk about? And so same with subsystems. Just need to work on the heat system, need to build that all out. There's one other thing I guess I should talk about in the heat system stuff. So your character isn't going to have standard body parts. Instead, each of their BPs is going to include a base layer environment suit. And so the reason I want to do that is I don't want just standard. So I'm hoping that the injury system that Quark's been working on gets implemented at some point. Because which injuries exists have cool interactions like having to duct tape. Oops. So your character, is like fighting a monster. He doesn't really do that much damage to you. You get the best of him pretty easy. But he's nicked your shoulder. And so now there's like a leak in your suit. And so weird extra dimensional like horror is basically touching right up against your skin instead of your protective enviro suit. That's going to kill you really fast as like kind of like a side greedy danger. And so having to like maintain and patch your suit in the field, potentially reducing the max efficacy of it, but keeping you alive until you can get that stuff delivered back to your home base is going to be important. It's going to be crucial. Sorry, just populating some stuff that was in my brain, but I didn't get out. Two. Yeah, that all works. So let's get back to do. And so need this EOC selector stuff. Need EOCs for melee. Need to be able to get all of your valid melee stuff so that you can actually build out that menu. Pick what you want. I want templates for monsters. So just need to create these enemies. Just need to make the enemies. I just need to like create the melee system. Because it's going to take a lot of balance to get all of that right, get it feeling good. And there's some other infrastructure stuff that I've already basically got done that's just been on the back burner for like over a year now, which I think will help to make that come together. And so, yeah, I've got this stuff. I need to investigate how I'm going to do map gen. Um, Create a spawning system. That means it's quests, because I want like points of interest and quests to kind of like happen live. Like as you're exploring, you get a ping for like a distress beacon. Like clearly another guy has died out there, and so you can like go over and potentially you could even get equipment that you don't have access to yet, or research things that you just don't have access to. And even like I could implement like harvesting. I should actually write that down. It's a good idea. I don't want to forget. Quests. Plus, could harvest or genetic material. Mutate your soldier. And so even like certain mutations that you don't have unlocked, maybe you could get some of that mutagen, and we could do some DDA style, like classic mutation stuff too, there to like then build up that powerful soldier base template that you're like bringing out into the field to try and take these baddies down. But yeah, so overall, the scope of this is large, but not, in my mind, infeasible, because the goal is to so the goal is to not be as tight of a simulation as DD8, but use some of the power and the tools and the underlying systems that exist in it to help to kind of elevate the simulation aspect of a game like this. And so, there'll be one tool set or like one wrench, etc. Right? There's not going to be like a dozen different types that you would find in different places or shops or whatever on Earth. That's not going to be a thing. All of the stuff that's going to be on planet is going to be distorted or kind of destroyed or like rapidly decayed, etc., to the point that it's not super usable. Like finding something worth using will be kind of, or like bringing, like you'll be bringing back basically stuff that will Greyhawk down to currency for the most part. And getting like actual meaningful equipment on the planet is going to be an exciting thing, as opposed to like in a game like DDA where there's loot everywhere, and that progression kind of dies out pretty quick. The goal in this would be that the progression is more of like a long curve, with less of it kind of relying on RNG slash game knowledge right up front to know like, oh, I should go here and then I'll get this thing and then this whole section of the game opens up to me. and instead it'll be more about kind of just like doing steady progression, building up that economy, and again doing those quests and little like points of interest and stuff that the game like throws at you with sort of a uh, the other thing that's going to be really fun about all of this is it means that the world never gets really safe. Like, just because you've been somewhere before and you've cleared it out, that means you might know the layout, but it doesn't mean you're going to know what's there now. So there could be like a whole new anomaly there. Like there could be like a lightning field, or like poisonous clouds, or like potentially even like a whole new building, or like a whole new like weird organic compound or structure has just like grown out of the ground here, destroying what was there previously. And so all of that stuff will require kind of solving and dealing with as the player. Um, yeah. Whereas you might otherwise not. Or like I guess in DDA, like once you kind of clear a location, unless portal storms really mess it up, but we don't even really want portal storms to mess stuff up in the base game, and so the whole goal of this is going to be to make more of a smoke 'em if you got 'em situation, where it's you want to use your resources, you want to expend everything you can to make sure that you survive. You want to you can disrupt and destroy the world around you as much as possible, and don't have to feel bad about that in any way, because you're not going to live there. It's not going to mess up your reality bubble, anything like that. Yeah, it's also like there is some benefits too. Like even though this is going to be heavy on scripting, it's going to be really light on creature counts and stuff. And there's not going to be like underground facilities that are kind of like blindsiding your performance or anything. Like performance is going to be pretty steady, because yeah, like enemies are going to have shelf life, and like they're going to despawn, and they all just kind of it all happens around the player, though giving the feeling that it's happening everywhere. Yeah. So that's my big pitch. So the big things, I'm kind of been blocked on implementation stuff recently, just because I'm already waiting on a lot of stuff to get through, and I've been kind of working on the limbs system. I also am busy. I wrote a separate game that I put up on GitHub. It's like a D&D style like kind of paper RPG. It's not like a video game. But I wrote over the last couple of months and then transcribed it onto GitHub for the last couple of weeks, which is why I didn't stream the last 2 days. If anyone's interested, or the last 2 weeks, if anyone is interested in or noticed that happened. But yeah, so I at this point I just need to focus on kind of getting some of this infrastructure stuff started so that I can work towards, as lame as it is to say, because it's like an industry buzzword, like I want to work on like an MVP, like a minimum viable product for this, to just test if it's fun. And uh, so like the MVP is melee system plus one enemy, basically. Because I want to make sure, because like the melee is going to be the core of this. I need to make sure that that's fun. Because if it isn't, this is just DDA but shittier. Excuse my language. And it's gonna be. It could potentially be that anyways. But I think this will be the idea of smaller, tighter melees that you have more influence on is going to be a big paradigm shift from the standard core game experience. And as well, I mean, we saw with, well, I mean, with even just the glut of extraction shooters that are coming out right now, but even like people just seem to love Sky Islands. They love the idea of playing Dark Days Ahead in a way where they have constraints, but also aren't punished with as permanent of death. Like you get setbacks, but you don't get a full reset. And so that's I want to try and capture that as like a whole new experience. So yeah, and so obviously, oh, I guess I'll say sprite work. I'll probably need to do some sprite work for this. It'll either be Altica or Neodays, because I like both. It'll probably be Altica because that's cool. You know, you don't want to be like it's not too exciting to be like a sci-fi baller guy and then just be, I don't know, like the little chibi dude. But yeah. Anyways, I've talked, goodness, almost an hour now. So this was a kind of lengthy brainstorming session. I don't think I'm going to do any implementation tonight. I've kind of been just burnt out from some other projects and things. But so this is the overall outline. I'll probably be doing a bit of this stuff off stream, but a lot of it will be getting done on. And so probably a lot of the infrastructure stuff will get done off stream because it'll require compiling. But a lot of this content stuff is going to be happening on stream every week here on Wednesday. And so if you kind of, hopefully some people can follow along with me doing this, like this big full conversion mod for Cataclysm, and maybe even get some ideas or experience with it so that they can make their own mods and do their own cool stuff with the game. Yeah. So I think I will cut it off there. Thank you everyone for potentially watching this during the week. Have a good day.